Cooley, we ready?
Yeah.
He said we're live, so we live. All right, we got threes, we got twos, we got ones, and we are in the building. Say Something family, welcome back. The Say Something show is in full effect. Money Mitch in the building. To my left, Benny Blanc right here, hosting, holding it down, centrally speaking. Welcome back, man. We're excited to be back.
Yes, sir.
Got a full week. Wonderful agenda to talk about. Before we do any of that, we always like to take a little time, check in with each other, make sure we're all good here. So you too, take some time. If you're with somebody, check in, say what's up, say what's going on, take a moment because we all can use that. And, we always like to raise awareness for those kind of things as well. So, Mitch, what's going on? How are you doing? Let the people know.
Doing well. Another good week. A lot of sports happening, a lot of accolades being shown to folks, a lot of people getting their flowers early. So it's nice to see. And I'm ready to talk some more sports, man. Looking to see how we can go about this and, show these guys how the champions just got named in college football, baseball things happening. It's a lot of entertaining stuff right now. I'm excited and doing good.
Absolutely. I'm good. Appreciate it. I'm excited. Like you said, it's just a back-to-back action going on. Lots of big moments in sports, lots of history defining things we can talk about for long periods of time beyond this. So it's always good to kind of get the first say going, throw some things in there, put your opinion in the ring, as they say, or in the hat. So I'm really excited to just cover some of this stuff. As you guys know, I'm now down to my last couple of days before school starts. So yeah, man, deep breath, just focusing it back in, getting as ready as I can be for the next leg. But as I said, we getting all A's. That's the goal. So, just with one semester down, a little more idea for myself on how to prepare. So I'm just kind of doing that. So this weekend will be a lot of self-care for me, a lot of prepping, a lot of paperwork, potentially just making sure all of my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed, as they say. So without further ado, let's jump into what we got today because, as we know, that's what actually brings the juices back to your boy.
Let's go.
So let's get it. NFL, we got the playoffs fully going. I mean, these things are ripping and roaring. Some of the matchups have been all right. And I think sadly, when you look at this, there's been a lot of injuries as well. A lot of teams, even our playoff teams, by the time they got there, just decimated. Right? Just decimated. So, some of that is really sad when you think about what some of these teams could have been, right? Like the Lions come to mind where, they're about 8 starters short on defense or something insane, including 2 of the most prominent players, Aiden Hutchinson, and as well, they lost a bunch of guys in the back. But something Davis, I can't remember his first name, but it's something Davis in the backfield. Might be Charlton or something like that. But he's a very, very good DB. They lost him, and then they also lost Angeloni, their linebacker, for a long time, and then he came back. And so their whole D-line, basically their whole pass rush.
Therefore, they lost the game. So,
was gone, and they got cooked. So it's sad, to see that. And then, you look at teams like the Texans as well, who, they had up and down, season here and there, but it's just could never get right.
Dude, Will Anderson is going crazy. He's a beast.
He also looks kind of like Bronny James.
He's ridiculous. I just watch highlights of the Texans. I don't really watch the full games of them, but every time I watch, it's always him making something happen. So
absolutely.
He's a beast. And then CJ Stroud, I don't know, with that offensive line just kind of looked like a baby boy. I don't know. The Chiefs defense seems to show up every time in the playoffs. It's like they do solid all season for sure, but it always goes under the radar. And then in the playoffs, it's like, oh, yeah, that's kind of why you guys have been winning because I don't think they scored over 30 in the season at all. So clearly it just shows how well the defense is. And was it Spagnuolo? The defensive coordinator. I think just stay in that lane, bro, because trying to switch the head coaching might just be too much to handle, and you're goated on the defensive side.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but for a lot of those things for me is like when you look at the season the Texans could have had, I really feel like that record could have had them not playing the Chiefs in the beginning, and they just fell off. And I feel like Tank Dell, Nico Collins, these guys just weren't there for the majority of the season. And when you saw them back, you saw glimpses of like This is why everybody was hyped over C.J. Stroud last year. This
Nico's
is why
going crazy.
This is why people thought, oh my God, this team could really be a dark horse.
Mm-hmm.
So, just sad to see, like we said, injuries potentially play a part. You're never going to discredit the other team, but potentially swaying things.
Especially when it's the Chiefs.
Of course. And then, so just to cover what has happened, we had Lions and Commanders going at it in an absolute brawl.
That first half was just score.
Jaden Daniels looks like the truth. This guy looks very composed.
Idiots.
Look very composed. Looks like, he's one of these guys that's been in the league way longer than he seemingly has. And one thing I will say is it just seems like he's played so much football.
Mm-hmm.
He's just everywhere he's gone, he's started. Everywhere he's gone, he's played full seasons, right? And everywhere he's gone, he's been productive. Mm-hmm. And when you see that and you compare it to, let's say, a Trey Lance, right? The difference is just the on-field comfort is insane.
The pocket
presence. You can't rattle Jaden Daniels. We watched it. First of all, the Lions are one of the most aggressive defenses.
Mm-hmm.
They sent everything they could at him. And he still stood in the face of it and has all season.
Right.
Very impressive. Done it multiple times against the Eagles this year where I just was like, wow, it felt like Jaden versus the Eagles.
Yeah.
So, hats off to that guy for putting up 45 on them boys, even though that Lions defense, I truly felt like was a walking 45. Yeah. Like the way we attacked them at the end of the year, put up 500 plus yards on them with barely anybody on our team. I mean, it just showed how much they were missing.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have the Eagles and the Rams. This was really what I thought it was gonna be. I think a lot of people slept on the Rams in terms of just where they were at right now. And they're just one of these teams that I felt like they could lose to anybody and they could beat anybody.
Right.
And sometimes in the playoffs, that's just the most dangerous team to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the team that really has nothing to lose and is going to coin flip with the game and be okay with it. 28-22.
Yeah. Good game.
Saquon Barkley. What do you think about the guy?
I mean, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, putting in big work. Shows what he can actually do behind a good line. He was amazing on the Giants before.
Right.
Now he actually has some competent guys in front of him, and he's just going absolutely crazy. In the snow, too. I don't know how they do it. I would not be in that snow at all. I'd be like, Coach, catch me in the dome ski.
Right.
I'll be there for the Super Bowl in Miami or wherever it is that's going to be warm because, man, snow is not my thing. West Coast boy, not ready for that.
Right.
And clearly neither were the Rams because they couldn't do it at the end of the day. They tried to make it close throughout the game, but at the end of the day, I think the Eagles were just showing that they're the better team, and the Rams were just trying to play catch up.
They controlled the ball a lot of the times. I mean, at the end of the day, they're a running team, so that clock management was always going to be a thing for the Rams, and they were able to capitalize. With not having much clock and get some points on the board, but that's Matthew Stafford's specialty, and like you said, just not enough.
Yeah, I mean they're so well rounded on offense. The Eagles, it's just Jalen Hurts only had 128 throwing yards in the game,
which is common.
It's just because you have Saquon with 26 carries, 205 yards. I don't really got to do too much besides hand it off. But it does seem like when that's not working, even though it's been working all season, they do have A.J. Brown.
Yeah, of course.
They do have
Devontae
Smith. They do have Dallas Goedert. And so he ends up finding a way to get more passing yards in those games when they're more focused on Saquon rather than the passing game. Jalen doesn't really have to even do that much. It's kind of like a situation where it's just get it to the receivers and let them do their thing.
Absolutely. Like you said, they're a good enough team they can kind of play how they want, right? They let the game dictate how they're going to play. And that's a tough team to beat. Moving on over, we already talked a little bit about it. We have the Chiefs and the Texans, 23-14. It's one of these, like we said, one of these games where the defense just kept clamping down, and by the end, it was a suffocation. It looks a lot like what we're come to expect from the Texans, which is a shoddy O-line. Not going to give much time. And really, I felt like C.J. Stroud at that point was off his game. He was hit so many times this year. His reads weren't as quick as they needed to be, even when the pocket held up.
Right.
And I think you get hot feet at a certain point when you're getting hit enough. I think it's just habit.
I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't have even more hot feet. See one read, two read, it's not there. Take off. You got the kind of athleticism where you can get 4 or 5 yards if you do that 3 times. It's first downs, you know what I mean? So I feel like with some of the guys out there who kind of can be pretty mobile, it would be nice to see them do the 1-2 read real quick and then get out of the pocket. I see a lot of guys taking sacks, but I feel like you guys can get out of there. Just got to move the pocket around. I know it's a little dangerous. Try and move around can lead to holdings by the offensive line, but get out of there, get a few yards, and get your team moving forward rather than taking a 4-yard sack.
Right. Yeah, and I also think, CJ fell into the hero ball thing this year a lot with the way his roster ended up looking and how he felt about his O-line. And I agree with you. I just thought that, that played into what his decision-making was he went big all the time. And that's not even like C.J. Stroud. Like when you watched him rookie year and even at Ohio State, it's like he was super good at progressions and letting the game come to him. And this year it just felt like he must have looked at it and gone, this is boom or bust.
And it's kind of what you say about Jaden Daniels, where it's like I don't even feel like Jaden Daniels, he might have like 1 or 2 like big runs this season, but it's like overall he's just like, let me just scoot over here real quick and get this real quick look 5 and then move on to the next play. He just has that pocket presence just to know, all right, this play is broken down. No need to run around the backfield. Let me just get ahead and get a few yards and keep the ball rolling.
Right. And apparently, this is very interesting about that situation. I'm glad you bring that up because apparently in the beginning of the season, the Commanders have a lot of PTSD from RG3.
Right.
And apparently they had a whole different playbook in the beginning of the year that Jaden Daniels ended up scrapping about midway through and just saying like, there's no point in, restricting me like that. Because at the end of the day, it's going to do more harm to what we're trying to do than what you're thinking you're preventing, right? And so it's interesting to see that apparently he went into the owners and the coaches and said, like, I'm basically just not down with this playbook anymore. And like, if you're not going to use me how I've been used everywhere else and what I'm comfortable doing, which is like you're saying, I'm going to sprinkle in some runs here, right? You might even be able to call a couple draws for me here and there just to loosen the defense up, not even meant to be something crazy. And, his willingness, I think he's a football player. So he just wants the ball how he knows to. And so to your point, I think that they've done a good job doing that. And I think we're now seeing the results of that, which are, they're playing the Eagles in the championship game. The last matchup to talk about, which might be my favorite, and just a very conflicting matchup to watch because I felt, like I said last week, I felt legacies were on the line. We have the Bills versus the Ravens. We have 27-25, the Bills advancing. How do you feel? What's your take?
Mark Andrews. Ouch. That's a rough one. To be one of the top tight ends in the league. I get it. It's cold. It's snowing. But, man, it's a catch you got to make. I know it doesn't come down to one play. I know it's a team game, but sheesh. That would have got you guys to overtime for sure.
Oh, easy.
Would have kept the game going. I mean, it's tough to lose that way, but it's also tough to let it come down to one play.
Right.
So,
he also did fumble.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of turnovers, a lot of mistakes. Look, man, that's what it comes down to, turnovers in the playoffs, man. If you let the other team just have that possession over and over again, it's not going to work out for you at the end of the day. And if you don't come up clutch with the last minute of the game, that's you out of time, That's what it comes down to. And the Bills just outlasted them. And Josh Allen showing why he should be the MVP this season.
Straight up. MVP versus MVP. How many times have we seen this matchup where it's felt reversed? Like the Bills are stacked and the Ravens roster is cool.
Right.
And the Ravens win. And it's just like, God, Josh. This feels weird and different to me in terms of, I know mainly we've seen the Bills getting knocked out by the Chiefs. But like, I feel like 9 times out of 10, I've looked at the Bills roster and just gone, where is the weakness? Right? Like, dude, the Stephon Diggs days, all those guys, just like, dude, these are bad teams here. And those defenses were nasty. And then it always felt like the Ravens had like a Gus Edwards and like guys like that where no slander to Gus Edwards. I didn't mean to give you a cold shot right there, but You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It felt like, the receivers, the best one is what? Odell Beckham on a signing,
Right.
he's
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers.
He's coming into his,
he's nice. He's
himself,
nice.
but
What's the other guy? Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, R.I.P. Jacoby Jones.
R.I.P. Jacoby Jones. But like these guys, their rosters have always been, especially offensively, like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Like that's the best way I can describe it. It's like,
all right, sure.
Right, fine. You got it.
This is what you got to work with. Good thing you got Lamar as the quarterback.
100%. And a good defense.
Otherwise, you'd be looking like the Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just interesting to see that kind of switch. I believe the narrative looks a little different this year. Bills' offense, I feel like they overachieved this year. And like you said, it's on the back of Josh Allen. On the back of Josh Allen. But like even their rook, right? Like he had an up and down year, but even he came up clutch a lot. What was it? It was named Coleman, right?
Keon Coleman.
Khalil Shakir came into his own this year.
Yeah. The running game, James Cook is killing it. Touchdowns for days.
And he got vultured.
Yeah.
So, like, can we imagine if he wasn't with Josh Allen, the one quarterback that vultures every last thing at the goal line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up James Cook because I feel like I almost just slept on him still. Like, people still just do not bring his name up.
He doesn't have, like, a bunch of yards, per se, but touchdowns. He's getting in there.
But even his yards per carry is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, at somewhere like 5.6 or something like that, where it's not light. Like, he's 2 rushes and a first down. Average. So, let's talk about where this leaves us. First, before we move on, did you have a biggest surprise from the past weekend's game?
Clearly, the Commanders. I mean, who would have thought they would even be in the playoffs to begin with?
Yeah.
Again, I mean, every time I see them win, I just am like, Raiders. Every indication before, I mean, clearly social media is fake, right, guys? Because everything I was seeing on social media was they're really looking forward to trading up for him. He played for Antonio Pierce. Looks like he really want him. All the guys on the team are talking about him. Maybe we should get – and then nothing. So, and then now you see him here in the championship game. And, I don't know if the Raiders defense compared to the Commanders defense right now in terms of numbers, how they look. But in terms of offense, it's like how you just were talking about the offense where it's like, all right, Scary Terry and who?
Brian
but then
Thomas.
You have, Brian
Robinson. My bad.
Yeah. But even then, it's like, well, if he had been our team, we wouldn't have had Brock Bowers. But we still would have had Michael Mayer. We still would have Michael Mayer.
Devontae
Adams, Jacoby Myers. It's like those three alone is like, come on, man. Imagine what he's doing running around throwing it to those guys.
Yes.
So that's why it always resonates.
Probably would.
And Josh Jacobs
Let's
probably
be
would
honest.
stay. Exactly. Yeah. So, it just always comes back to me in my head when I see the Commanders doing well. It's like, all right, that's literally all anybody was asking for the Raiders was for you guys to go get somebody. Nothing. So look what it does when you draft the right people.
And it stings obviously that it's so quick too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's just
off the Benny. He's like a top 5 quarterback already.
Oh, for sure. I'm not gonna say that was my biggest surprise because I actually was not sold on the Lions. Like the end of the year for me with them, I just felt like they ain't got it. They're not going to make it.
Yeah.
If they were fully loaded, I do feel like that was a team of destiny. But I feel like their destiny was gone long ago. And their record, they were playing off of pride and adrenaline. Like, for them to get out. I also, this is just messed up, but I also just feel like that division was faulty. And, like, sure, they were winning close games. But I feel like that was what you call a football division this year, where the football things just went their way. Mm-hmm. They were in close games just like the rest of us. But we all lost this, a fair amount of them. And they just lost none. And the results were high win totals, low loss totals. But let's be honest, no overly convincing ball from either teams in the second half of the year. Right?
I mean, for me, it's definitely the defensive side of the ball. Their offense is crazy.
Cooking.
Like they and they had lost David Montgomery.
Yep. And he was back though.
And it's like, you give up 45. That does say something about your defense.
Absolutely. And they put up 31. So it's not like 31. Yeah. No, that offense is never to be doubted. Mm-hmm. But the reality to me with playoff football is you would have to be the Rams, bro. That Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt.
Well, I mean, we see it with
Marshall Faulk.
We kind of see it with the champions, the back-to-back champions. People haven't been like, oh, like Patrick Mahomes been going crazy these last few years. It's always been, whoa, in the playoffs, this defense is crazy.
Cooking.
So it's like clear the defense wins championships.
100%.
Like you don't have to score 50 points. You can score 23 and win.
And you know what's funny is I do think that the first couple iterations of the Chiefs who were winning were the line.
Mm-hmm.
No defense, playing on the edge, playing, every fantasy football man's dream, right? That team back in the day when you Tyreek, Travis Kelce, you got your hands on any of them boys.
Any of the running backs back in the day for the Chiefs?
Kareem Hunt back in the
day.
Oh man, yeah. So it's interesting. That's another great point you bring up because I believe that they, just like you were saying, have figured that out and said, you know what? There's more volatility to that style. You can be beat on any day if you're not going to show up and be gunslinging in the right way.
Right. I mean, people can game plan and scheme against a quarterback even as good as Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And you can see he's not putting up hella numbers, but he's getting the job done when he needs to.
Yeah.
And who's holding it down for him throughout the whole game to keep it that way and give him that chance? The defense.
Yeah, that's real. So my biggest surprise of the weekend would be I'm going to have to go with the Bills and Ravens. Yeah. I mean, I there's no way I saw that coming. Mm-hmm. I love Josh Allen, and I wanted it for him because he's just the guy that we've seen not win, and so are the Bills. Mm-hmm. So I wanted that, but I cannot say that at any point because I wanted it. I felt like it was realistic. Right. That team, that offense, going against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, I don't know if I need to say anything else. Yeah. It's just I didn't see them coming out with that. So very impressive.
Elements definitely had a deal to play in these games.
Did totally
playing in the snow. The great equalizer. You know,
absolutely
makes it tough, and especially for a team that's like very run heavy.
Yep,
might be kind of tough to get the juices flowing and get out there like that. But
yep.
Yeah, I feel you on that because the Bills. I don't think anybody saw this coming.
I think a lot of people thought it was Lamar's year. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy, too, because Josh Allen has one of the bigger hands of quarterbacks, and Lamar does not, and Lamar fumbled, and Josh did not, and they drafted Josh with that in mind because of how cold Buffalo is.
Hey, need a big body out there.
Very interesting fact, but that is how the Buffalo Bills draft. You remember they had Cardell Jones before, and what was it, E.J. Manuel?
Yeah.
So they've always gone by hand size and stature of a quarterback. And
Got to bear the storm.
Turnover was one. The turnover ratio of the battle was one, potentially because of that. So, two matchups we have left: Chiefs, Bills, and Eagles, Commanders. Right? Chills.
That's crazy.
Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Commanders. Who you got? What do you like?
You know what? I think I'm going to shake it up since they've been proving me wrong every game so far. I kind of thought they would lose.
He's going Manders.
Get-go, but
he's going Manders.
Going Commanders over the Eagles, man.
Yeah,
that's more heart over head. But
that's totally possible.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it's just totally possible. The Eagles not been super impressive throughout it. Even though they do have a great team, just kind of been like, nah. And then the Commanders are just riding high right now, and they seem to have a quarterback who understands how to play throughout the game, and a bunch of guys that are willing to play as a team. There's no superstars. Just get it to whoever, Jaden. It doesn't matter as long as we get that touchdown. Is it Damari? Who is it? Damari, the wide receiver?
Oh,
what's his name?
Dynamo Brown or whatever.
Yeah, he's been doing his
De'Ami Brown.
De'Ami Brown. Shouts out to you. Sorry we got the name confused a little bit, but he's been doing this thing. It seems like they have a nice little connection. So
yeah, he's like a slotty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think he could play a big role. And
Ertz has been having a little revival too.
That's true.
Jaden loves his tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going ahead. That's crazy. Yeah. That's depressing. And I think Jaden is bringing a little revival to Austin Eckler, which also I just feel like when you look at what the Raiders had, like an Madison, like those guys, like that's what those
set up for it.
That's what those guys need. You know what I mean? It's a guy that's going to elevate you, bring you back, give you something new to go for. I will say I do think Scary Terry is underrated, and I do think that this finally showed it. That's the one dude who I will say I do believe is an actual star on that team, where it's just like, can we name some of the quarterbacks he's had these like I'm not going to go into it, but look it up on Google who's been throwing to Terry McLaurin over over his career.
Taylor Heineke.
Boy. And that's even a notable name. Right. You know what I mean? So yeah, look at that and then kind of have an understanding of what it may be like for him to finally be getting a true baller throwing them that thing. So that's the only thing that I would say. Everybody else is an absolute, like Mitch is saying, is an absolute but you got it. So what about Chiefs-Bills?
Chiefs-Bills, man, another heart overhead decision. I want the Bills. I want to see the Bills pull it out. The Chiefs, man, they've had their time. They're kind of running out. It would be interesting to see them go out like this. I think if they won this one, I don't know if Travis Kelce would come back.
Right.
Like he did his thing in the last game, and it's great, but he even looks just like he just looks whole. Yeah, he's done. He got $100 million for a podcast. Now. Yeah, he's down to go hang out at the Swiftie concerts and just hang out. They show her just as much as anybody else on the field. So
even when he's not making catches.
Even when he's not making catches. But yeah, Josh Allen, he was my fantasy quarterback and held it down for the boy the whole entire season. So I kind of want to see him be able to carry it out. Last time when they played in the playoffs and it was a back and forth into the overtimes, it sucked not to be able to see him get another chance to go. But I'm hoping for another game like that because that was damn near one of the best games in the playoffs of all time. That was a crazy game. Go back and watch the highlights if you don't remember. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago.
I think it was 3.
AFC Championship was crazy. Back and forth, overtime was wild.
Straight shootout.
But I want to see the Bills come on top, but it all comes down to the offensive line and how they're going to hold up against the Chiefs defense because they've been getting to the quarterback over and over, and DBs seem to understand their timing with their defensive line of, all right, this is how I need to play this route, or this is how I need to be on my defense, and how much time it's going to require me to be on point and know, all right, I think my defensive line probably got to the quarterback at this point. So a lot of good cohesion over there on the defense, but I want to see the Bills make this one. So Bills, Commanders, 2 teams that have been plagued with devastation in their franchises. Bills losing so many championships, it being so long since the Commanders have even been relevant. Man. So they're 2 very old school teams, and it would be crazy to see both of them in the playoffs and see Josh Allen get that little push up and kind of get out of the shadow of Patrick Mahomes a little bit.
So who do you got taking home the Lombardi in New Orleans?
I guess we'll find out next week.
He'll give the drop next week.
Next week.
All right.
Comes out of this
I got the Chiefs. Well, Chiefs and Bills, I got the Bills.
Okay.
I just hate the Chiefs. I'm just a hater. I personally also believe it'd be better for football. I'm just looking at it from an overall marketability point of view, from a fan point of view. I believe even from a player point of view. I think the whole league needs to see a new team crowned just to reinvigorate everybody, right? Because it's just getting corny. And I haven't seen a lot of convincing ball. I've seen a lot of clutch ball from the Chiefs, but not a lot of ball that's even. I think a lot of teams would be okay with going out if they were still the old Chiefs with Tyreek and stuff and how this is happening. But it's just really, at the end of the day, it's ball where you're really well coached. You're not making mistakes in the moments that matter, and that's still awesome. But I don't think that's really what people want to see. I think at the end of the day, people are just tired of Patrick Mahomes and the whole Chiefs show, the Swifties, the Kelce action going on. So Josh Allen, I hope that he gets his opportunity to go and just, potentially shake off all the nastiness that the Bills have had and allow some of their fans to get some rest with hopefully a victory in the Super Bowl. And then on the other side, I personally am going to agree and say the Commanders as well. I've been saying this since Ricky Parcells, shout out to you, bud. when Ricky went up and said, he believes the Commanders are going to win the whole thing, a lot of people thought he was crazy. But, one, he is backing Jaden. But two, these guys know ball. They watch it and they play it. And so they're able to understand matchups in a little bit different of a sense. And I think he looked at who they would potentially have to play. And I feel the same way. Like this whole NFC was just soft.
Yeah.
And not soft like you guys don't hit hard. Like, I'm not, come on. But I'm just saying, like, I don't see a lot of concern coming out from here. I wouldn't have been surprised if you had said anybody was here.
I mean, you look at the teams that made it. You got Matthew Stafford. Okay, that's a champion. He's won some before. Then you got the Vikings with Sam Darnold. You got the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield. You got the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, but he's kind of been a little mad this season. And then you have Jordan Love with the Packers. So I can see what you mean by definitely soft in terms of like, none of these guys are guys who are just out here dominating like that.
Yep.
You got Sam Darnold relying on Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
Yep.
Buccaneers, you got everything's to Mike Evans.
Yep.
Eagles, solid team, but have been looking man with their quarterback. Then Jordan Love with a plethora of guys, but they don't even know who the number one is.
Yep.
So, yeah, definitely a soft group compared to other teams in the past that have been in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And not a lot of teams with identity, especially once the Lions kind of lost their bite. It's just, I think that it's interesting that these two teams might be the teams that are most synonymous with having an identity this year. And so it looks like that's paid off. So I'm going to take the Commanders. So that would be Bills versus Commanders. And I will this week give you an answer, and he'll give you his next week. I personally believe the Bills will take that. Mm-hmm. Now, the only thing that I'll say to it, because I'm not going to break down an imaginary matchup, but I'll just say I do think if Josh Allen gets to the Super Bowl and gets past Lamar and gets past Patty Mahomes, I just don't think there's anything that could stand in his way at that point. Yeah. And Jaden Daniels is amazing, but I think the Bills would be grateful to take on the Commanders in the Super Bowl.
For real.
You know what I'm saying? I think they'd be sitting there going, for sure. So that would be my thing. And I hope
one quick thing is referees. I saw Jared Goff get absolutely destroyed on an interception he threw and the team coming back.
Right.
He got laid out. And we see Patrick Mahomes barely getting touched, and flags are flying from every corner of the stadium.
Yep.
We need to stop that. That's damn near half the time why they end up on good drives is because y'all give them on a third down a penalty for Patrick Mahomes specifically. This needs to stop. That's why these other teams are looking at the Chiefs like, come on, man, ain't nobody trying to see this. Y'all are basically like, you're not handing it to them because the Chiefs still have to make the plays afterwards, but that's a key possession, or that's a key time in the game when you're giving them a flag, and then you got guys laying out, like getting decleated by a defender, and there's nothing for those quarterbacks. So it's like, come on, guys, like let's put the flags away, let the boys play. Right? That's what they say. Right. Let the boys play.
Absolutely, and let's make a rule up for cats like Mahomes who do this hesitation at the end and try to get flags thrown on these other guys. We got to have a counter. There's got to be something to protect these defenders from that. Not all quarterbacks do it, but like those who are, you guys are busters. And I really feel like Mahomes, you're the one who created this and you're the one that does it the most. And to me, that's not a loophole. That's a cop-out.
Yeah.
Like at that point, you're just trying to finesse the game to a point where, bro, do you want to play? Like, get out here and, we let you do all your other dancing and singing around when you're doing this winning. Stop it with all the little antics. Man up, put the pads on, strap the helmet up. That's the game you chose to play. You know what I mean? And so stop adding soccer stuff into it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need the right? You're already getting every bit of protection the league has to offer. Let's not make it any harder for somebody to choose to be a defender.
Right.
Okay? So I love that you brought that up. Let's move on real fast. We're going to shake on by the Niners and the Raiders because, again, we touch on them every week, but there is not a lot to go on. Cupboards are kind of empty right now, but we're just going to kind of go bang, bang, and bang, and then we'll be on to the next subject. So Niners, Salah is on his way potentially. There's still a question mark there, but I do feel like that soon could be an exclamation point. Shout out to Trent Baalke from the Jaguars for just absolutely destroying that interview and then getting fired.
We'll smell you later.
Amazing, dude. I mean, you are exactly what I remember when you were the Niners GM. You are exactly that. Kudos, man. You're a boss. And thanks for sending him back to us potentially. Because I honestly don't know how many backup plans we had. And I honestly think we took a terrible approach this year to filling this role. And we may end up getting lucky and still getting our first choice. But I do believe waiting around for Salah was ignorant in a lot of senses. And I'll talk about that at a different point, depending on when we get some news on it. And if it becomes official, I can really break down what's going on. Khalil Mack, question mark. A lot of rumblings about Khalil Mack. He's out his contract with the Chargers. I mean, he definitely wants to still play for the Chargers, so it'll be up to them.
Right.
He loves Herbert, loves those guys. And, it'd be silly for him to leave now when I do think that they do have something going. You know what I mean? And he loves Derwin James as well. But, if they decide to go younger, which they really might, we've tried to go for him before. We tried to get him off the Raiders in 2018. So don't be surprised if you hear our names, jumping back into that rumor mill if he becomes available. And I do think that he's not going to be what he was, but I do think he'd be a nice little extra body throwing out there trying to get us, 7.5 sacks on the season. Right. Okay. Should we draft a quarterback is the last question. I say yes. I won't, again, go into something lengthy. All I will let you know is we run through running backs like a smoker runs through swishers. You can't ever have enough. So when you're talking about new talent, young talent, cheap talent,
bring it here.
We were on running back 4. Need I tell you where that is on the depth chart? I think not. But man, Shanahan, please, don't kill these guys, and also don't put pressure on yourself to re-sign some of these guys that at the end of the day are productive in your system, but we don't know what that means.
Right.
On to the Raiders. Who will be the coach? Mitch?
Man, who knows at this point? Johnson is out of there. He's going to the Bears. Cohen talking to the Jags. I guess there's now a little bit of rumblings of maybe trying to persuade Pete Carroll to come to the Raiders. I don't know if that's going to be something that he wants. It seems like anybody we've asked has been like, nah, I'm kind of cool off that because you guys have Mark Davis as your owner. I understand Tom Brady is trying to be persuasive. That's kind of our only chip to try and help us because it's been a bad team for years and we've had a bad owner for years. So the combination of those two and not having a GM, or we just got Spy Tech, but not pairing him with somebody that they would have good camaraderie with is kind of suspect. I feel like somebody as big as Pete Carroll would want to bring in his own, like the GM to work with that he's familiar with.
For sure.
But, hopefully that can work out because it seems like we've missed out on our chance of getting anybody notable. And like I said last week, that's going to leave us with who is that
and
guy?
Why did you get rid of AP then?
Right. If you're going to go for somebody equal or lesser out there. In terms of the draft pick, what are we going to do? It seems like we're just as lost there as we are as with our head coaching hire because we just got a GM now. Not much time to just be looking at guys and evaluating and being able to go see them. So it's just a lot of buffoonery going on with the Raiders. Hopefully, out of all this, they prove me wrong and do something right. But so far, it's not looking good this offseason, and it just looks like the team's in flux, and there's no hope of figuring it out right now. So hopefully they can do something to figure it out and get some of these players to be back excited to come back and play next year. Otherwise, it's going to be a whole new rehaul of guys, and it's just same old, same old.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you just got to hope down the road Tom Brady's clout pays off, because at the end of the day, like Mitch is saying, it's the only thing shining right now in the black and silver because of what Mark Davis has done. And, I think you got people like Max Crosby. I mean, it just can't do good things for your franchise when you have guys that are so beloved by the fans who just come out and are like, I'm just tired of getting destroyed.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of the way they're treating us, and we ain't doing nothing.
Right.
And so everybody's listening. That's all I'll say. Yeah. NBA, Dubs need to pull the trigger on a big. I mean, we've said this week in and week out.
Now.
Do it. I don't care who it is. Get us a big, and then let this season run its course. Right? We're already too far along to really make any huge moves. There's no availabilities that we would truly want to break bread for to go ahead and open the cupboard and give everything we got. So, with a lot more availability this summer, I do think that it's time to give this roster a fair shot at least being in it night in and night out with the right guys at each position, right? Like a 1 through 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just give that a chance. And then from there, if we end up drowning out, you got to sit Steph. You got to look to sit Steph late in the season, and we're going to end up having to tank. I mean, that's the reality of what's going on here. So I think they take a long look here at the deadline. I think we make a move potentially for Vucevic. That would be the biggest that I could see happening. And then there could be a bunch of minor moves below that if that doesn't happen. And then I think from there, they give it about a month and a half. And then you already know Dre's ready to sit.
Is there a possibility with his value so low that we could find a way to be able to have enough assets to give out to 2 different teams and pull a Vucevic and Jimmy Butler steal?
Yeah.
To get this season going. I don't know, because we
want
to talk about Kuminga and some of these guys being like, oh, well, maybe when they're 25. Okay, but who else we got on the team right now besides Kuminga that we're looking at to be like, oh, my goodness, he's such a great player? Because if we're waiting for that and we want to see that transition, look at the OKC, look at Oklahoma City. Kuminga's not beating them by himself. Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's not beating them by himself. Minnesota Timberwolves. So trying to sit there and be like, well, we want to be competitive. I don't think we'll be competitive in 5 years if that's what we're looking at, unless we decide to make some moves right now and get some guys for this last run. Because then there's going to be a lot of rebuilding. It's not too often you get a generational player coming to your team. So and that's what we were that's what we were going through before we got to Steph Curry and some of these later draft picks. Is a whole bunch of guys getting together. Who we have? Jay Rich,
Monte Ellis,
Matt Barnes, Steven Jack, these guys.
Troy Murphy,
Mike Dunleavy. It was a bunch of 500 ball, maybe get that 8 seed. So it's not going to be any of that. So after Steph is gone, I'm not trying to predict this or say that this is going to happen for sure, but it's we're going to be looking to be a lottery team.
For sure.
So, to sit here and act like any of the players, the young players right now, with the way the league looks, is going to help us in 4 or 5 years, I mean, they would have to make such a huge jump, in my opinion, and we would have to make all the right moves after Steph is gone. But, let's capitalize on having the greatest shooter of all time and not just let this go to the wayside.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, for me, I do think that, Kuminga is one of these guys that we only lose in the right situation.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a star, because I do think that Kuminga is the one thing that we could build on moving forward, which gives us something that we could then, because we all know we wouldn't be competitive with just Kuminga.
Mm-hmm.
But, Kuminga at 25 could be a superstar, in which case that is something to build around. And, you would hope Moody can transition into being somewhat of a starter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But without that, and with all these dead contracts following Stephen Curry's career, we could be in a position where we're in beyond shambles, like the Nets style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we just have no picks. And so it has to be somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not stuck on Kuminga, but I do also believe that the Warriors need to be held accountable for their lack of development.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that at the end of the day, we keep circling back to these players, and nobody is getting the leash they deserve.
Yeah.
Nobody. You look around at Franz Wagner, all these guys that got drafted with him, Scotty Barnes, they are allowed to throw the ball to the parking lot if they want.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what they wanted to do tonight, was just put the ball in the parking lot, they had their position the next game. And they were still going to get patted on the back and still supported morally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that we have just mentally supported these guys enough to really feel like, with what we're seeing from especially Kuminga, to think that he's gotten almost no love and is putting up what he's putting up in not enough minutes as well. And what he could do elsewhere, like on the Nets, if they were to just sit there and go, we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll regret watching that.
Like they do with Cam Thomas.
Right. I think we'll end up regretting that, just because I think that, especially right now, I don't think there's a guy that would make you go, I just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I do think this summer, there are going to be some names that are out there where we will be one of the few teams who has a treasure trove of assets ready right away to throw at somebody. And I think that's what we're thinking. And there's a couple teams who are right there with us who are kind of, biding time right now and hoping that this summer when some bigger names come up, that's when they can kind of put everything to the table. I know the Spurs are one of them. But I think all eyes are on, guys like Giannis. If we're talking about truly upgrading to really try to compete in the last window of Steph, right? Because at the end of the day, what I don't want is to go get guys that sound cool to compete with Steph.
Yeah.
But we're like Mitch said, look around the West. And at least the biggest favor you can do is just be real about what's there and what you would need to take them on, right? So don't think that by you go getting me a Brandon Ingram and somebody else and we trading everybody for that or whatever the case. Don't think that I'm sitting there going,
definitely not.
That's me writing RIP everywhere I can. You know what I mean? So next, we're going to move forward because we could talk about the Warriors all day, every day. Steph voted as an all-star starter. Let's get a quick golf clap. You know what I mean? Let's get a quick golf clap. You know what I mean? Hey, now.
Big thanks.
We love you. We love you. As he should. Well deserved. West and East starters have come out. If you haven't seen it, go check it out real fast. Biggest snub for you as a starter, West and East.
Man. So we got Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns, Giannis, and Jason Tatum for the East side. Man, maybe even like a Jaylen Brown for a starter. Maybe they just didn't want to have those problems again after they gave him the Finals MVP.
Right.
Steph Curry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, LeBron James. I mean, it's kind of hard to go against these guys. Snubby, and
where's your boy?
Where's Big Vic? Maybe Vic. Maybe they should have made him somebody who would be a starter.
I mean,
Nikola.
If you look at the numbers, it can't be Jokic. It can't be Jokic. But I'm just saying, like, are we really?
Kevin Durant could probably.
That's what I'm saying. Are we really putting? Even LeBron, are we really putting LeBron over
LeBron's getting his flowers for the rest of his career. So,
we know that, but
even like a Kevin Durant, though, I know he's been having a good season, but this is about entertainment and growing the game during this weekend, and Kevin Durant has not been helping himself or the league in that way. So I think having Vic in there would have been a little bit better for the league and the optics of everything.
Yeah.
He also deserves it too.
Dude, his numbers are better. Amazing. His numbers are better, and his plus minus is better, and his his WAR is better than both of them. So yeah, when I looked at that, I definitely thought of that. So my two snubs would be, I think Cade got shorted in the East. I think that is crazy work. I think he could have slotted in over Jalen or Donovan. I mean, I'm going to keep it 100. And I love Donovan. But when I look
at D Mitch like that,
man, I honestly, when I look at D Mitch, here's my thing. And D Mitch, you're a baller, homie. Like you're one of these guys that I just feel like there's nothing I could do or say to keep you from balling. Mm-hmm. But I think Darius Garland's playing better than you this year anyway. So like
hot take.
So if I'm put it on the stove. But if I'm gonna say that, then it'd be easy for me to move you out. Right. And so I think Cade, and I think if LaMelo would just stay all the way healthy, and he has enough to be considered, he's been healthy enough this year. But I think his game is starting to get to that level, especially with what we're seeing with the East. And when we think about an all-star game, right? Like, you're going against the Monstars. You're going against the West, man. Can we get some of these aliens from the East to come match up? You know what I mean? So those would be my two. And then if I'm looking at snubs on the West, Wemby just said why, all the numbers. And then AD.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, LeBron. You're not carrying the team, though. You know, like, AD's numbers across the board are amazing. Total MVP numbers. And so, the one thing I will say about Wemby is if there were no Jokic, people would be suing the league that he wasn't a starter.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that there so happens to be a guy like Jokic sitting at his position, because that's the only way I'll say, all right, we'll wait.
Yeah.
That's the only reason, because Jokic, we all know.
Beast.
That's all I'm going to say.
Monster.
That's all I'm going to say.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how the 14 reserves players fit in and how they break down the 3 teams of 8. It's going to like 24 total All-Stars players on 3 separate teams of 8. and then one of the teams who wins from
so
the the youth game or what is
I forgot.
rookie sophomore game or the young stars game, rising stars game. Will play in it, so it'll be interesting to see how it breaks down with the 4-team bracket.
It's disgusting.
We'll see how into
I'm glad we broke that down on
it.
another show because I completely forgot we did that. We broke down that, and this is gross. How you brought it up. I'm like, no, I don't want to watch.
I guess the TNT crew will announce that on the 6th of February
and be mad about it.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a little draft.
They're gonna be pissed.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see if it's interesting. They haven't had an interesting All-Star game in a while, so who knows? Maybe this will switch things up.
Will they compete?
Will they compete?
We will find out. Before we move on from the NBA, just want to say there is a new Olympic doc coming out, so be on the lookout. Most of us probably did see the Olympics, so are aware of the kind of moments that happened.
Steph going crazy.
Huge, amazing. But for guys like us who are Warriors fanatics, diehard Warriors boys, obviously this will be our last dance almost.
Yeah.
Getting to see Steph out there and
especially when the Warriors aren't making no more moves.
Right. Which I do believe will end up getting a documentary, but we'll talk about that in the future at another show. But for what's coming up now, be on the lookout for that new Olympic doc. It's coming fast because that thing just finished. Yeah. So I'm like, they must have been aware that this was happening and fully prepping the whole time. But they're hyping it, and it does sound like it's going to be really, really awesome.
Yeah.
NCAA football, we're moving right along here. Obviously, the college football playoff was happening, so we got playoffs, and playoffs. We just had the national title. OSU 34, Notre Dame 23. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? What did you think about the game? Anything?
I watched it. It was a cool game. It was kind of what I expected. I'm surprised it took this long for a team to do this to Notre Dame, but this has kind of been, the status quo. Yeah, this is how it always happens. Last time Notre Dame was in the championship, they got blown out again, or that last time as well. So
even worse than this.
It's cool that their coach, they had a black coach. That was nice to see, him get his shine and basically take a team that damn near shouldn't even be there, even though they got probably about 10, 25-year-olds on their team.
Right.
Grad players. But, hey, you got them to the championship. You got $20 million. You guys are independent, so you don't have to share with nobody. It doesn't go to a conference. So you got your school some money. Maybe they'll bring more recruits. NIL is changing things, as we can see, all these different teams. But at the end of the day, the Blue Bloods will rise, and Ohio State did get that championship. And
pretty easily.
Man, it was a pretty easy game.
Yeah. No, I agree. I didn't get to see all the game. I actually was driving a little bit, so that's why I had to make sure we got Mitch first because I figured he watched the whole thing. Yeah, but, that says a lot. I would watch the whole game, no matter what in most, national titles. This, for me, was just any other game, really. Right. I feel like I've watched this game thousands of times. And so, like you said, I'm a fan of the coach with Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. I actually feel like he should go to the Raiders. Like, if y'all gonna, anyway. But
straight up.
Yeah, we don't have to dive too deep down those rabbit holes because we know Mark Davis is not listening.
That is a great shout out, though.
Right?
That my
golly, man, and just a fit too to what they're trying to build. I will say Notre Dame. It seems everybody's coming back. It seems like everybody got hurt by this, and those who are even considering the NFL are coming back. So Jeremiah Love, their running back, Riley Leonard. Actually, I'm not even 100% sure if he can come back. I think he was a grad student.
I think he was 7th year.
Yeah, but I think this dude Greathouse, the wide receiver, and then some guy Jordan Faison, who also was a wide receiver. They're all deciding to come back. So good news for them in that category. But at the end of the day, I was just surprised they were there.
Yeah,
just surprised they were there. And overall, I would say a tough college football playoff. It just was not great.
Yeah,
not a lot of good games. We expanded the bracket for the first time, brought a lot of different styles of matchups in.
Right.
And I don't think this year it quite caught up to what it could be in the future. I'm not saying scrap the format. I'm just saying I think we're seeing, a little bit of the short end of the stick right now as things are shaking out and they're figuring out the little kinks.
I think they failed when it came to the bracketology and how it came to the
seeding,
matchups.
Yeah,
having Boise State and who was the other one?
ASU
or ASU have a bye. That's ridiculous, And then you have matchups where it's Ohio State and Oregon. When it's like,
come on, that's a natty.
Yeah, exactly. So I would have liked to see the matchups be a little bit better. Let's just do the best matchups. Let miss me with the rank. Oh, he's the 1 seed, the 6 seed. Just make the best matchups out there. Make them make sense. It always sucks because it's nobody's ever gonna go like that. That's not how it's ever gonna be. But with some of these rankings, let's just make a smart decision. All right, they did do this in their conference, but we know that team's not on the same level, and if they are, they'll just show it anyways. So
right.
Work on the matchups.
I agree. And then lastly, Travis Hunter Heisman. Congrats to you, homie. 2 ways, man, doing his thing. He'll be on to the next level. Definitely a top 5 pick.
Yes, sir.
Congrats to that boy. MLB, real fast. Yeah. As we go on to the last leg, we have MLB and we have the Hall of Fame update and a little quick conversation on whether Mitch thinks that the Dodgers' endless spending sprees and deferred money is good for baseball. So take it away.
Well, like he started off with talking about the Dodgers, they just got Roki Sasaki, the 23-year-old pitcher from Japan, superstar coming through. About to bolster that starting rotation. It's basically turning into an all-star team. The helping hands out there, first base, you got Freddie Freeman, you got Mookie Betts. You don't have Teoscar Hernandez anymore. Right. So you still have Will Smith behind the plate. But some of these positions are still kind of they're all right, but they're really going to need to be held down by their starting pitching and their Mookie, Shohei, Freddie starting of the lineup, the 1, 2, 3.
Right.
But yeah, this is crazy. Yamamoto, Sasaki, Glasnow. Yeah, they just have a really good team.
Got, what was it, Tanner Scott?
They just got Blake Snell.
They got Tanner Scott. They pretty much everybody that was available this offseason.
You see the Braves as well, though, a team that is just as stacked or arguably just as stacked in terms of quality players, but you can see how quickly injuries can take a whole season out. So you never know in baseball. There's 162 games, so the longevity of staying healthy is very tough. That's what it really comes down to a lot of times when it comes to the playoffs, but they're definitely setting themselves up very well. I don't have a problem with it. Just go out there and play and have fun. It sucks that some of the lesser big cities can't get as many good players or as big revenue to shell out for these guys, but that's just the nature of the beast of baseball. And I'm excited to see it. It's still going to be exciting baseball. I still think there are other teams that can hang. And just having the best players doesn't always guarantee you a championship. And we've seen that with the Yankees. We've seen that with the Dodgers. We've seen that with many a team. And even though the Yankees have the most World Series all time, recently hasn't equaled championships.
Cold streak.
But other than that, we have Jerkson Profar. Again, like I just was talking about the Braves, getting added to a Braves lineup that's already stacked. That could be somebody who's really going to help bolster their team, get them a lot more hits, a lot more through the lineup. Acuna, Ozzie Albies, third base.
You got also Olsen, right?
Matt Olson,
Austin Riley
at third base. They got a squaddy over there. Marcell Ozuna,
outfielder, young. Goodness, it's not Ozuna. It's the other dude, center fielder.
Acuna.
No. The other black dude.
Oh, Michael Harris.
Thank you.
Yeah,
baller. He's a baller.
Yeah, they got squaddy, so they're going to be a tough out. They're going to be great for the NL as long as they stay healthy. So that's been kind of like the rumblings and the news in terms of free agency. And then we got the GOAT conversations coming along. We got our Hall of Famers. We got Billy Wagner, 16-year vet,
flamethrower,
7 All-Star games, about 5'10", throwing 100, throwing 99, 422 saves. He's made to the Hall of Fame. Congrats to Billy Wagner. We got to clap for you. Next, we got a hometown hero, straight from the Valley Joe, 707 repping CC Sabathia. Played for 19 seasons, Cy Young Award winner, World Series champion, 6-time All-Star, 251 wins, over 3,000 strikeouts, absolute legend.
Baller.
Another Bay Area great. Shouts out to my man CC Sabathia. Welcome to Cooperstown. Last but not least, an absolute legend across the whole entire world. My man Ichiro Suzuki, one vote away from unanimous
That's crazy.
Hall of Famer. It's funny in the press conference they had, he was like, "I just want to sit down with that guy and have some tea and ask him why the fuck he didn't vote for me."
For real, though.
But he's always a good sport. But I mean, again, 19-year career, came over from Japan after already having over 1,000 hits over there.
Yep.
Came in as a rookie, won Rookie of the Year and American League MVP in his rookie season.
Going crazy.
Never batted under 300 after like his third game in the league. Like for 19 seasons, always had a career average of 311, 10 Gold Gloves, 10 All-Star games, over 3,000 hits, over 4,000 throughout Japan and the MLB. Just one of the best, if not the best, contact hitters of all time. Great outfielder, would throw you out from anywhere.
Yep.
Could make any play, would run on the fence and jump and catch the ball
Super
to rob
athletic.
home runs.
Super athletic.
Absolute beast in Ichiro Suzuki. So shouts out to you. Welcome to Cougar Town. Those are your 3 Hall of Famers that are going to be getting inducted. Man, those are 3 very solid players, and I think 3 guys who represented the MLB with class, and they showed out every time they was out on the pitch. So shouts out to you guys. Well deserved for these guys, because sometimes you can wonder
who's that guy
get in there. I don't know how, but these guys are absolutely beasts at all their respective positions and just in the MLB in general.
Yeah. And Ichiro was one of the first people I saw who did that, that kind of swing where he was already leaving the box.
Yeah.
That was so cool. I always thought, man.
First Japanese player in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. History is made every day. Glad we can keep you on top of it this time. We're not always going to catch everyone, but we try. Lastly, I'm going to say, check out the Unrivaled 3-on-3 Women's Basketball League.
Nice.
It's allowing the women to be able to potentially not go overseas, not have to play in Russia and all these other leagues in the offseason. And it's a really cool format, 3-on-3 full court.
Crazy.
Splits up some of the best players that you see on their normal teams you're used to and just absolutely jumbles it up. So it'd be like seeing, LeBron, Steph, and KD on a team potentially, and Aunt Nicola, and somebody.
Can we see Asia, Kelsey Plum, and Caitlin Clark on the team?
Right. Oh my goodness, that would be cooking.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Ionescu.
Yeah. When they're all, it'll be nasty. Caitlin Clark's not playing yet, but she does plan to join next year. She's so fatigued from just not being used to the schedule. But really exciting. So just check it out. I actually think it's really cool. And then of course we got the Valkyries coming this year to the Bay. So big ups to women's basketball. Y'all got a lot of things going right now. Make sure you guys stay up to date with the news and where you can, maybe check out a game or two.
Yeah, get some season tickets, man.
Yep. NHL, again, these are all just quick checklist moments for y'all. Take a look at Macklin Celebrini. We've told you about him before. This is a 18-year-old first overall pick, legend in the making. When I tell you that, I don't say it lightly. I don't watch a lot of hockey. But listening to a lot of pundits who really do, this guy is the real deal. There's a lot of debate if it's who's the true future between him and Bernard, and I don't think anybody thought that there'd be a name to even make that a question for a long time. Bernard was looking like a once in a generation in a modest way.
Yeah.
And Celebrini's come 1 year later and said, let's put a halt to that.
Beer that I can't legally drink
at all. And, shout out to his dad, who's part of the Warriors organization. So just a great story there. But check that kid out, man. He's getting a lot of PT. He came straight out from being drafted, which is not normal. And he has 14 goals, 20 assists in 38 games, which is very impressive. He's missed about 10 games on the year, and he's still up there in terms of points total. So amazing from him. And then, again, another youngster to just keep your eye on from teams that I enjoy. We've mentioned him as well on this show, Lamine Yamal. The kid is going absolutely to the moon with all of his play, and it really shows whenever we're without him. Like, Barcelona is just a different team.
Right.
And there's a lot of talk of him potentially getting into the Ballon d'Or voting this year, which would be the youngest potential winner. And we've definitely seen guys that could potentially have been valued at that at 17 and have not been. So it'd be quite a feat if he's able to do that. So if you get a chance, if you're watching La Liga, which is on ESPN Plus, or you're looking at some Champions League ball on Paramount or wherever else, just take a quick look. Something special is going on over there. It's not a lot of times where you see a 17-year-old who is taking the world by storm at that level of soccer.
Right.
Absolutely. So another show in the books. Thank you all for being here today with us. Again, comment, like, subscribe, whatever order you feel most comfortable in. Just remember that support always helps us with the algorithm and get us to more people like you. So we'll see you guys next week. And without further ado, we checking out.
Peace.